And it's actually from the book of Esther in the Bible, of all places. It talks about Mordecai, who was a leader in that time.
A leader is also a light in the darkness.
I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible.
Welcome back to Leading Lubbock, where we shine a light on the leaders shaping our city and beyond. Each guest you'll hear from was nominated by someone who's already been on the show, building an incredible chain of leadership, connection, and impact. Get ready for stories that inspire, challenge, and push you to lead bigger in your own life. Let's jump in. All right, welcome back to Leading Lubbock. Today, I'm really excited because I got somebody here that I get to know and walk through life with pretty well, and that's Mr. Tanner Dean. So Tanner, thank you for being on the show, man. Really excited you're here with me.
Man, it really is an honor. It's cool to watch you do it and kind of remotely be in the background, just seeing people come in and out of here, and it's exciting to be a part of it. So,
Well,
sincerely.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
So just so people can know a little bit about who you are, Tanner Dean and I both run Clear Rock Realty together, so side-by-side partners. And then Tanner, you are a family man, so tell us a little bit about your family, who you're married to, kids.
Yeah, I'm married to Mackenzie. This June will be 9 years. We have 2 daughters, Lakin, who's 5, and Addie, who is 19 months, give or take. So yeah, we kind of in the thick of everything, but it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, some of the cutest girls I've ever seen. So you got your hands full for sure now and in the future. And then also, anything else that you love to do hobby-wise? What takes up your time?
Hobby-wise, I love to play golf. I like to hunt in the appropriate season. And I've learned recently that I find a lot of rest in anything that doesn't have a time constraint to it. So, like, even my own hobbies, I can find if I have to be done by 4 p.m. because we have to be somewhere at 5 and have to rush home and shower, and that's going to take 30 minutes. And I've learned that I enjoy most things when there's not this in-time constraint to it. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
How does golf fit into that?
Have to make sure nothing's scheduled afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it can definitely be I've left in the middle of rounds before. So,
Yeah.
but that's part of fitting it in, and, just priorities change as life goes on, and thankful for Mackenzie, who provides space for hobbies, but also got family things to do too, and those are also fun. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I get to sit back from a distance and be able to watch how you lead your family, which I love. I think you're a great dad. You're a great husband. A great role model for the rest of us dads and husbands out there. So thank you for that. And one thing I want to make sure we highlight today, and this will even be segue into talking about leadership with you, is this is a fun dynamic that I'm hoping that people get to listen in on and see, like, a little bit behind the curtain of what does leadership look like whenever you're doing it with somebody.
yeah,
Because we have the privilege of running Clear Rock together.
yeah,
And I think that's just a different angle than most of my conversations have been. Like, where it's either that one person leading or somebody else who they're referencing, but you're not hearing both sides of it. So
Yep.
I think this is a really cool dynamic, and want to just give you kudos too for just the way that you care for people. I would say that you have one of the most solid hearts for individuals, and whenever you're with them and they're sitting down with you, I think everybody could say if they've had that time with you, they know what it feels like to be cared for, to be heard, to be, given really good questions to ponder, and then you've got really good insights on life. So just want to say, thank you for who you are. And one, I get a front row seat to that, so that's the best part. But
well, I appreciate that a ton.
yeah, secondly, just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, let's jump into leadership. So to you, what does effective leadership look like?
I think I've learned that through the wrongdoing over the course of my life, and I think the best example I could give is like what I thought leadership looked like specifically in my marriage. I thought that getting married, my job was to lead Mackenzie, and that meant have the right answers. It meant know the direction in the course of our life. It meant to prevent all problems from surfacing and almost like a proactive firefighter, like run before her, and every spark that I see, it's my job to put it out. And I learned one, like I really don't even have the ability to do that, much less how wrong of a definition of leadership that is. And over time have learned that because of that inability to not even be able to do that, that really good leadership in that context would be Mackenzie and I deciding our direction together as a family, and like seeking in, Mackenzie's incredibly wise, and like, who am I to like think that because I'm the male of the house and that my leadership is primary, that her say doesn't matter. And arguably it's equal to my say and where we go and what we do. And so I think I put this immense amount of pressure on myself that, I was to be absolutely perfect in all aspects. And that was good leadership. I've actually found that like really good leadership comes from voicing the ways that I've gone wrong, and how do I like course correct and actively do so. And so long story short, I think effective leadership is, walking in humility, understanding my fault, and delegating to what someone else can do better than me. And that plays out in my marriage. I would say that plays out in our partnership, and hopefully it plays out too in the way that we lead other people.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take this two different ways.
Okay.
One is you mentioned this idea of, you didn't say the word evolved, but I heard it evolved. Like maybe there's a new perspective now than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage maybe helped with that.
Yeah.
Can you speak into that? Like, was that something that changed over time?
Yeah, I think so. I think a specific conversation like began to turn the needle. It wasn't like, I remember being, and I think I was 20 at the time, maybe 21. And I was meeting with Dusty Thompson about like what I wanted to do. And I really wanted a church plant at the time. And man, at the time you could have told me like, hey, let's do it in India. Cool. No questions asked. I would have went. Like I was super like enthusiastic about it. And I think there was a lot of like great things in there too. So I'm not saying like that's wrong, but what I learned in this specific conversation with Dusty was Mackenzie was on staff at Redeemer at the time, and he was asking me like, well, where is that headed? And where is this church planting idea headed? And how are those two things like aligned, or if they are at all? And what I learned was they weren't. Like they were very me focused. Mm-hmm. And they were, like I was telling Dusty in that meeting that I had already bought a ring, and Mackenzie didn't know. And so I'm vocalizing to him that yes, my idea is marriage, and I'm chasing it and planning to propose in any day. But at the same time, I'm communicating a life course plan that is like really doesn't involve Mackenzie at all. Like, and it was almost like because it was Christian and because it was gospel centric, I had almost like convinced myself that that's what good leadership was. And I remember he asked me a very pointed question and just said, hey, let's say you and Mackenzie get married. You have 2 kids. You make $50,000 a year, not a dollar more. You're faithful to Redeemer. You grow old and your kids grow up to love Jesus, and you get to see your grandkids, and then you die. Like, are you okay with that? And I remember telling him, like, I know I should be, but I'm not. Because even this idea of church planning, yes, there was a lot of like gospel-centric pieces in there, but if I'm being super honest with myself, there's a lot of pieces that I thought were more about me than they were about the gospel moving forward. And so I think that was more of the wake-up call to like, man, to sign up for a husband is not to pull your pocket out and say, hold on, and I'm going to just go, and you're just going to follow me. Like, it was more about like, what would it look like for me to play a background role, support Mackenzie in all that she does, and, you know, maybe I'm not seen or maybe I'm not heard, but Mackenzie thrives in what she does, then is that enough for me? And I think at that time it wasn't, but it's been really, really sweet to like see the Lord change my heart to I'd rather no other role, honestly. And so, yeah, I think that was a conversation that really turn that dial for me, but I think it's been more of a drip coffee effect over the years of being led by other people, failing in a lot of ways as a leader, trying to fix things that aren't really mine to fix. So I think that was the conversation that really pushed me that direction. But there was lots of life things that happened to truly turn my heart towards that.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
There's some things in there that maybe or when we look back on our story, we're not the most proud of how we acted, but we kind of can use those as lessons too of how it helped us grow. Yeah. And so we can give that insight to other people. But now looking forward, okay, so that was back when you were 21-ish, right? So now looking forward, fast forward 10 years. Man, I look at you, and most adventures that you go on, you're not by yourself. You usually have somebody with you. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's this idea of community that's always involved with it.
Yeah.
Can you speak into that a little bit of is there a reason why you like to go side by side with somebody? Is that a preference, or is it the way that things have just kind of shaked out?
I'm actually super introverted by nature. I'd much rather be in a corner by myself, people watching, than I would be talking with many. But I think I can't really take credit for it's just something that I intentionally do now. I think it was something I had to make a conscious effort towards, but I would say really this book as a whole is the thing that really spurred on that, because the book is Every Good Endeavor by Tim Keller, and he makes a strong case that work was not a result of sin. He really points out the fact that work existed prior to the fall, and it was meant for really good things. And the book really shaped a lot because I was given the book when I graduated college by Richard Barnes. And at the time, I'm gung-ho about this idea of, church planting. And over time, end up working in, you could say, quote unquote, secular industry, but just working in different business. And what the book is primarily about is finding God's mission, joining him on it in the workplace, and really care a lot for people to know Jesus first and foremost, but want to see the ripple effects of that positively too play out in their lives, both in them individually, in their families, in their kids if they have them. And so I think that's just something that God has changed my heart towards, is to what's the point in creating a world so big that you can't invite somebody into it, or that you refuse to? What would be the point of that? And so, yeah, I think I'm just really passionate about I know 100% I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for the people that invested in me. And so, shame on me if I'm not willing to do that to the next part. So I think it's just more of a desire to see them win, and not saying that, follow me, this is the way to win, but really want to see other people succeed and want to invite them along for that journey too.
Yeah. How about, so as you're leading Clear Rock Realty, as this episode's recording, there's approximately 30 agents in the office that you're helping to lead. And how does that show up for you? Or is that maybe even something that was on your radar, 5 years ago, that you wanted to be in a leadership role in a company like this?
I would say, I think I've always known that I possess quote unquote leadership qualities, but I've also learned that leadership is a choice. It's not really leadership doesn't dictate what role you're in, or because you have 3 letters of a CEO tied to your name, now you're a leader. Leader can be a 3rd grader in a classroom that chooses to not do the thing that other people are doing because they know that it's wrong. So yeah, leadership is a choice. And I think, no, I never planned for it to be in this context, but I knew that was that was a call all along, following Jesus and learning more about myself. I think leadership existed there, period. It's a call from the gospel, but it's also I think I've been equipped in those ways, and I think it just happened to play out this way. Not by accident, but so leading agents here, I think is not planned for, but too exciting. It's different to be in an industry that is very like, these are my secrets and I don't share them, because it can be very cutthroat. Like, this is how I get business. This is how I choose to invest. This is how I like want to, pursue or lead generate. And then people are almost afraid to like show others the playbook, because they think if they do, then their success will dwindle because other people do it. And I think that's a very like scarcity mindset. And by all means, like, I'm again not saying this is the way to do it, but like I find a lot of joy in sharing with people, like, this is how I do it. This is how we've done it. Doesn't make it right. Like even today we had the financial class, and just being able to transparently say, like, this is how we at Clear Rock manage our finances. Not saying that you have to do it this way. I think that would be legalism to say that like you all have to do it in this direction. But I would say it's wisdom for us to choose to do it in this way, because we feel like it serves God and serves them, whether they see that or not. And so
yeah, man, that's incredible. So it to me, it just seems like, maybe I'm going to sum up what you just said, and hopefully I got it right. But now leadership has not been like a position that you've aspired to hold, but it's been more of a posture that you've been wanting to possess, and just kind of like a interaction with other people, leading by example, leading them in a positive way. And even with Clear Rock, wasn't necessarily a position or a business that you wanted, like, saw yourself, someday I'm going to have a business, and this is going to be what it looks like, and this is the seat I'm going to be in. But it became more of a natural, this is what I'm doing. This is how I can take what I'm doing and influence other people in that same industry. Yeah. And out of that comes a company. So,
yeah, I would say even starting Clear Rock was not about like, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're part of that too, but it wasn't ever about like, oh, we could do it better. Like I would argue the question was more of like, well, why not us? Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't watching all of these people finding loopholes in what they do and then saying we can solve those loopholes. I think it was genuinely like we were trying to answer two questions. Like we wanted to serve people well, both client and agent, internal and external, and what is the best context that we could do that. And this is how we felt like we could exercise that best. Yeah. So yeah, man, I think it's a choice, and I think it is one you step into, and it doesn't matter the context. And I think the context changes all the time. So
yeah. Something that just popped in my head, and I'd love to get your take on, is as a dad, Lakin is 5. Okay, so as a 5-year-old father, how do you intentionally help Lakin understand what leadership is? And I'm using Lakin as an example because Hattie may be a little too young to start speaking leadership lessons. No. But how does that show up as you're fathering? Because I love this idea that you're talking about of like, this episode's gonna be so relatable to people, because it's not just like the 3 letters of a CEO or whatever. This is way beyond that, and this is your everyday life. And so that starts young. You're talking about a 3rd grader leading. What does that look like as you just navigate life with Lakin?
I think Mackenzie and I, one of the biggest things for Lakin specifically that we've tried to push is confidence, like in herself. Forget like right and wrong right now. Like Lakin's probably one of the most, well, it's not far-fetched. She's incredibly hard on herself, but I think she gets that just because Mackenzie is super hard on herself, and I'm, unfairly hard on my own self. And I think she's just kind of naturally picked that up. And so in Lakin not wanting to ever be wrong, she will like look to you for like, am I going the right way? Like, am I doing the right thing? And it can be as simple as her doing her homework, and she knows that 4 + 3 is 7, but she is in the process of like, counting, and she looks to you like waiting for you to nod your head and say, yes, you're right. Like, keep going. And we've tried really hard to like almost not even give her any form of like emotional response until she's done it herself. Because like she is right and she knows that she's right, and we're trying to just foster like a confidence in you to like make the choice. And if you like get it wrong, then that's okay. Like people aren't perfect, and how do we even use that for a teaching moment that like you don't have to be that hard on yourself, and really getting it wrong this time will help you get it right the next time. And so I would say at this stage for Lakin, if we can help foster this confidence in herself, I think that's where like her leadership would start. And knowing that like, yes, I'm choosing to go left when all my friends are choosing to go right, but I'm confident in this move because I'm confident in who I am. And I would say that's kind of where we're starting.
Yeah, that's great. I think you can, that question can go one of two ways. I think you can take it literally from a leadership of like, man, how have we talked to her about leading and leading her friends and leading, you know, whatever it may be, your class or siblings. But I love this idea that you went down of this, like, we're just going to stack this thing, right? You can't teach the whole concept at one time, but right now this is what she needs. And this is the way that we're going to love her and encourage her. And then the next thing's going to show up, and this is how we're going to love and encourage her. And this is going to be the stacking of lessons that then you embody as leadership as you grow older.
And I think, what would it look like? Take COVID, for example. Like I wasn't in real estate in COVID, but I know it was a madhouse in real estate. But what I was a part of a company. And I remember the leaders of that company would boldly say like, well, I was at Primitive, and it was led by Cade Wilcox and Jared Hurst. And I remember COVID, nobody knew anything. Like, nothing. Like, what's going to happen? What are the effects of today versus the future? Or, heck, like there's even these grants being given to businesses, but people at the time didn't know, is it a grant or is it a loan? Am I going to have to pay it back or am I not? And they, like, stood and said, we don't know what the future looks like. But we're confidently, like, they didn't use the word confident, but they went this direction and they were confident in that direction. And so people followed and I followed, like, and it was good. Like, I mean, not saying that I wonder what they would say about that time, but like, my point is confidence is, again, not saying that you have to have the right answer, but like people for sure won't follow you if you're not confident in the thing. And primarily, with Lakin, we think that starts with herself, and she can't be confident in a thing or a direction if she's not confident in herself. And so, yeah, we're really trying to spur that on, not right and wrong, because she knows what's right and wrong, but like we're really trying to drill home like, hey, you made the choice, and I'm proud of you for doing that. So
that's awesome. Going a little bit of a different direction, I would love to hear for you specifically, like, what does leadership look like on a daily basis? Like, are there habits that you practice that help you hone in on or remind yourself maybe about what it looks like to lead? Anything that you do regularly?
I would say I'm like, you could point to any area of leadership in my life, whether as a dad or a husband or here, like, and I could probably tell you 3 ways that I'm not doing it well. But I think the thing that I'm trying to really do now is like coach myself in that same aspect. Like, you know, no one really has called me to like be perfect. And I think I'm practicing a discipline of like reminding myself of good things that I do. And I know that sounds like maybe a little prideful, but I'm so far the other way that I've learned through counseling that like maybe some like self-affirmation would be a good thing for me. And so I'm actually trying really hard to do that in myself. And I think that affects Lakin. I think that affects people here. And so I think that would affect Mackenzie at home. Like for me to be confident in who I am too. And this is who God's made me to be. And, you know, here are the ways that I'm seeking to like lead at home or in the workplace, and you know, even celebrating the wins of those, because they're not all bad, like they're not all mistakes. And so I would say currently at the time of this recording, I've been working on affirming myself in those things rather than just magnifying glass all the things that could be better.
Yeah. There is this idea that I don't know. I think there is almost like the reverse of pride, but it's like pride in the opposite direction of like
False humility.
Yeah. And I can't look at myself in a positive lens.
Yeah.
Because then that would be prideful if I did, but we're doing that so much that it becomes pride.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum. And I do think that there is so much about celebrating small wins, celebrating any win, really, and acknowledging those for what they are.
Yeah.
People have talked to me a lot lately about gratitude journals. I don't know how many times it's come up here lately. You ever just like sit down and write down what's going good in your life? And I've tried it, and it's hard. Like to sit down and like you get through 5, and it's like kind of 5 of the same things over and over again. But if you try not to repeat them, it gets really difficult to keep thinking about the ways that things are going well. And I think it's that sometimes we're just afraid, to be too prideful, or I don't know. Maybe we need to feel like life needs to be harder on us somehow. But I've watched you. I got to sit side by side with you for a while, and I can see how that can play out where you strive for so much goodness, so many good advances and change, that it can tend itself a little bit towards, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, or I didn't excel or didn't hit that outcome that I hope I was going to hit. So, for Lakin, for our kids to be able to watch that, for people here in the office, I do think we need to fail and fail often. Fail fast, fail often, so that we can learn. And I also think it's okay to celebrate the big wins in the middle of those failures. So,
for sure.
That's great. How about a pivotal moment in your life? This could be life or career that shaped who you are.
Man, when you sent the questions prior, like, I don't know that I could like boil it down to one. I think there's like many, many different times that like have shaped who I am. One thing I would say is, I watched this sermon maybe 2013, by Eric Mason, who's a pastor in Philadelphia. The title of it was Suffering is One of the Primary Means by Which God Sanctifies His People. And I will say, though, like, I can reflect on many, many hardships that I've endured, that I would say definitely had pivotal moments in shaping who I am. And they weren't even some that like I endured. It could have been stuff that like I watched other people endure. Like, frankly put, in full transparency, like my mom's divorce, like as a 4th grader or a 5th grader, like I didn't really know everything that was going on at that time or what that looked like. But the more that I've learned as I've gotten older, the more respect that I've had for my mom, and even her willingness to like even uphold a lot of like my dad to me and my sister in high regard, like what it would look like to not speak ill of him, and man, in any situation like that, divorce, no matter the topic or no matter the reason, I'm sure there's hurt on both ends, like, but to choose the honorable route and not speak of that hurt to us, like even things like that, like small nuggets like that, well, I hope to be somebody that, like, despite how people have wronged me, like hold them in high regard to others and not be swayed towards gossip. So that's just an example, but I don't know that I could necessarily point to this one moment is the thing that changed it all for me. Mm-hmm. So I could give you a couple more, but
you don't have to. Not asking for specifics necessarily, but I do like the concept of it's not even your own life lessons that you have to experience in order to learn from. But even though you are affected by many of them, divorce is going to affect more than just the couple involved.
For sure.
And yet you have that ability to experience life and experience lessons.
Yeah. I mean, peel back the curtain and, you know, not share too much of her business, but like even like Mackenzie's like walk with depression like 8 or 9 years ago, like to be like a background participant of that, like to watch her endure and like suffer well, and that, I would say that pushed me deep into trusting Jesus, like the epitome of like, I can't solve that for you. I would do anything to take it, but like I can't. And man, like being pushed through another's suffering to like trust Jesus with them, and those are just moments of like, I would say we do ourselves a disservice to not sit in the trenches with other people and not only like serve them in that way by sitting there, but like seeing God at work, who he is in those moments in their lives, and allowing it to be in your gratitude journal, like gratitude for you. Like I would say it's a blinder that you choose to put on to God's faithfulness when you do that.
So let's pull back the curtain a little bit further.
All right.
Since we're going there.
Sounds good.
I think that's interesting that you brought up Mackenzie and then what you learned in that season. You know, we look back about I don't know, maybe 7-8 months ago, right? You walked through depression with me, and things that I was experiencing, and it's something that I've wrestled with and learned a lot from.
Yeah.
And in that, have even heard like some of the best, or maybe some of the most trying things in your life are some of the best opportunities for you to impact other people, you know, who may be experiencing something similar. So to pull all of this full circle is that you were able to walk that with Mackenzie. And even though that wasn't you firsthand, you were experiencing it with somebody else, had the ability to walk with me, lock arms with me in a season of a lot of difficulty. And so there was a lot that I learned from you through somebody else. And I'm sure even people that you guys learn from as you're walking through something like that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just how we can be impacted by so many people, and I call them ripples, right? They're just like, you just continue having ripple effects. Now I'm going to be able to express to somebody else who may be walking through it lessons that you taught me in the season of walking through it. So one, just a humility to even love people that are going through it. Remember what you walked through, take those lessons, and don't just put them under the rug, but like, let's keep sharing them. So
and it's back to your comment about like doing it with other people. It's, you know, what's the point? And, you know, me to walk through that, but never to like, not that I really had a bunch to offer, but like the support, like to not give it to another. Like what would be the point in that? And, you know, even you taking your story and one day, like I would bet it probably has happened already, but encountering other people in deep seasons of depression, and what does it look like to encourage them and say like, no, like I'm not just speaking as one from across the pond. Like, I mean, I've drowned in it too. And I can tell you that God is faithful to like pull me out, and he can do the same to you. And so, yeah, I think that's the point in doing it together.
Yeah. Good stuff. How about a lesson that you learned in your life that maybe you wish you would have learned a little bit sooner? Anything come to mind?
The big green button on your FAFSA account that says take all this money. Not push it. In all seriousness, though, I would say that one I talked about, like fixing it. Like I wish I would have learned that sooner. I think I carried a lot of weight to like resolve problems that weren't mine to solve. And like using that phrase of like sitting in the trenches with people, I took it as my job to pull them out of the trench. And like, I think I carried a burden of doing that for many people, man. It played out the most probably with Mackenzie, just because that's like, you know, who I was closest to, and like those seasons that I mentioned, like it's my job to pull her out. That also coupled with a really false identity of what leadership in marriage looks like. But like, man, it could play a role in an agent here that says they haven't had a closing in 3 months. Like it's my job to solve that. Or interacting with people that say that their marriage is on the rocks. Like it's, despite the past of our relationship, it's my job to get in there and help resolve. And man, I think when I did that so early on, I would actually say it hindered my ability to care for those people well, because it almost made everything a strategic meeting. Like, and I think when people maybe just wanted to be heard, like they didn't really care for a solution, they just wanted to know like that they weren't alone. I think my gut reaction was to like, I have to whiteboard the heck out of this thing and figure a way out for you. And the domino effect that has, where like now I'm at home and I'm either one, like projecting like someone else's, you know, struggle onto me, and like, or there's some areas in my life that are blowing up and I'm just like not paying attention and they're right in front of my face and I don't even realize it. Or like I'm just absent-minded because I'm so fixated on, you know, resolving their issue that I'm not paying attention to Lakin shouting daddy 8 times before I respond. And I think the motive, like the heart level of it is like genuine, but I think this false dichotomy that I'm like, I have this savior complex that it's my responsibility to do it, which ironically is in direct opposition of like the theology that I believe around like God's faithfulness to them in the midst of, you know, for me to say like God is sanctifying his people through suffering, but then to also say it's my job to go put all people's suffering out, like those things don't even like, they contradict one another.
Yeah.
So I think I would just wish I would have learned that lesson sooner, because I think it would have made me a better leader, because people think that leadership is like directed from the top, but I would make a strong case that leadership is actually getting on people's level to like understand their situation, to give good advice in their situation, or to even be a good listener, like what it would mean to get on their level in their hurt or in their struggle, even if it's just operational struggle. Like, what does it look like to get on that level with them and help them cast vision? Because a lot of times when you're in the weeds of it, like you can't even see the forest for the trees in front of you. So like, how do I get down there with them to help guide clear perspective, versus just this quick Slack message back of like, well, just hit the unsubscribe button and you'll be fine. Like,
yeah.
So,
well, one of the things that I love the most about what you're just talking about is, I think we all have the tendency to want to get in and help. Like when somebody's in the trenches, like we do want to do everything we can to pull them out. Like we don't want to just leave them hanging.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're right. Like we can't just fix and solve everything for everybody else. One of the things that I put on repeat on these episodes, because it just naturally comes up almost every time, is this idea that the biggest lessons in life are learned through hardships.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we just learn whenever everything is peachy and it's all going great. I think life is comfortable at that time, but that's not really where we're stretched and we're grown.
Yeah.
And so I think this idea to be able to walk alongside somebody as they're going through hardship and being an aid, being a mentor, being, offering help,
Yeah.
I don't think is a bad thing. But I think also, we can do a disservice to that individual by not letting them learn and grow in that season too, by, some of the stuff that naturally we need to take care of. Like when we're in the trenches, like there's responsibility on our end. Even if it happened to us, something happened to us, there's responsibility on our end.
Yeah.
To overcome. And there's growth opportunity in that. So
agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this book real quick.
Okay.
Every Good Endeavor, Tim Keller. So I'd love to hear why you chose this one as a book that's really impacted you. What message came out of that?
I think I was wrestling between three. This was one of the three. And I think the more I thought through, like, the root reason as to why I want to, like, lead people well, and how am I even defining, like, what is leading people well? Like, I would say it definitely comes back to, like, my personal belief in, following Jesus, and what that would mean for me and what that would mean for my life. And I used to think that the only way to do that well was in the context of vocational ministry. However, I don't agree with that anymore, like that's the only way. And I think there's been many voices that have, like, pitched that. And the other thing is, so one, like, connecting my work to, like God's mission, like I mentioned. But then two, like, he talks in that book a lot about redefining success. Like, and he really challenges the American perspective of, like, success means to make a lot of money, to drive the nice car, to upgrade to the bigger house, like, and to what end? Not saying that any of those things were wrong, but, like, really changing the perspective of what I think is success, or how would I even look at Clear Rock Realty, for example, and say, like, okay, we're successful. Like, how are we defining that? Like, is it money made? Is it people cared for? Is it milestones reached? And what are those milestones? And I would say the book really helped, like, attack at the root. Like, when we do have a meeting of here's our quarterly goals, or here's our yearly goal, I would say it's heavily influenced by, like, gospel inspiration. And I think people are going to be inspired from many things, but us choosing to make sure that our integrity is rooted to, like, our faith, and therefore we function in a transparent way, in leadership and in the goals that we set and in the things that we do. I think the book really connected, like, for me, that my work is, purposeful beyond just making money. And there's a responsibility to be had on my end to ensure that go forward. And so, yeah, I think there are three in my head, but that was probably one that, like, I would say attacked it at the root.
Yeah.
So.
In the subtitle, Connecting Your Work to God's Work, a couple things there is, like, every good endeavor is not just talking about the good endeavor, right? The one role that you should take in the vocational ministry or whatever it is, but every good endeavor. And then with that, it's like the work that you're currently doing to God's work.
Yeah.
So it kind of meets you wherever you're at.
Yeah, these things don't have to be separate.
Yeah.
Like, he definitely does write from a perspective of specific to, like, vocational work, but, like, that those things don't have to be, like, separate from one another. Like, his mission and our work, they can really be joined together.
Well, it's a good read. It's been a long time. I think this was a college read for me, or maybe right post-college, so it's one I probably need to dive back into. But one of the things I'm going to do is we'll have a copy to give to somebody who's following on Instagram, and you can write them a message inside of it. And so some lucky listener is going to get a copy of this book as well.
Cool, man.
All right, last question, my favorite question. And if you can define leadership in one single sentence, what would that be?
Do I get brownie points if I can just do one word?
Oh, yeah. Simplify it.
Sacrifice is what came to mind.
Okay.
Like, yeah, the explanation is not a simple sentence, but, like, I would say that I have been strongly influenced by every leader that has, as Drake would say, started from the bottom. Like, and what I mean by that is to approach someone as a project manager and say, these are my struggles, and them know what I'm referring to in those moments, or to be led in real estate to a new agent, but have once been a new agent, like, what that would look like. And so I think that there is like sacrifice to get to that place of quality leadership, but then there's also things that are outside the job description that I think you'll have to sacrifice in time, preference. Many times where the to-do list is a mile long and an agent is, wrestling with difficulty that has absolutely nothing to do with real estate. And what would it look like for you to put your to-do list aside and be an ear? And then there will be consequence of your work from doing that. Like whether that's you may get up later, or like you can't just throw the task away, but being willing to sacrifice my priority for the sake of another. There's lots of realms in there, but sacrifice was the thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, just an affirmation to you. I can see that show up on a daily basis. This isn't like, man, every once in a while Tanner sacrifices for somebody else, but I think it is a posture that you live by. Like you do that well. I would say if somebody walks up to you and says, hey, I need something, even in the trenches, I've seen you say, hey, I've got 5 minutes, and then at least like giving them that time.
Yeah.
And so I know there's been a lot of late nights, early mornings, because of the things that you sacrifice to make sure that it all gets done. And I've also seen you grow in health around that too, where you're not just giving entirely of yourself, where you've like depleted yourself, to your family and other priorities. So, man, you're a great example to a lot of people.
Well,
I know you are to me. It's been a pleasure, doing this business with you.
Yeah.
And excited to watch where you go from here, and even other things that you have your hands in. I mean, they're all really good things with really good people, and you're just going to keep taking it to new levels, and I'm excited to watch that and be a part of it. So keep it up, man.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah.
Excited to get this out there, and we'll have to do it again someday. And
Sounds good.
Tap on your door and say, hey, hop over for another episode?
On the way.
On the way. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.